It is time for Becoming Gift with Andrew Reinhardt. Andrew live in studio with us this morning. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Pat, Dave, and Ron. How are you all?
Hello. Good, Andrew.
Now, how did everyone do with their Thanksgiving moderation?
What, you mean the whole pie I ate?
Yeah, I have the threat of having to buy new clothes looming over me, so I have to do better at Christmas than I did at Thanksgiving, I think.
Yeah, me too, Andrew.
I thought about it.
So today I wanted to talk about growth in prayer. We've been going through a series where we are talking a little bit about prayer as opposed to Christian prayer, as opposed to non-Christian forms of prayer, and meditation and contemplation. So what I wanted to talk about today was making growth, making progress in prayer, what that actually looks like for the Christian. You know, fundamentally as Christians, making growth in prayer, having deeper communion with God is part and parcel with growing in your moral life or your life of virtue. And this is essential. For non-Christians, oftentimes growth happens as a result of technique. And the claim there is that what's between me and God is my consciousness. I need to get my thoughts out of the way. I need to get my feelings out of the way. I need to empty my mind so that I can be closer to whatever it is I'm getting close with. But the Christian idea isn't that. Our thoughts, our consciousness, our ideas, our feelings are not an obstacle to God. God's created our minds, created our consciousness and our thoughts. So God can use our minds to get close to us. And this is one of the fundamental hearts of Christian prayer as opposed to non-Christian prayer. Christian prayer is fully human. It's not an obliteration of our humanity. It's an embrace of our humanity. One of the key ideas, if the only problem between me and God is my consciousness, that fundamentally would be a denial of original sin, right? The claim would be that if I just enter a state of neutrality, then communion happens, right? There's no other problem. There's no other barrier. So for us Christians, the fundamental thing that between me and God is sin, is the wound of original sin. It's my own personal sin. It's the sins that I've been a victim of. And with that would be all of my vices, those bad habits, and my attachments. The ways that I'm connected to things of the world and attracted to things of the world in places where I need to be connected to God and attracted to our Lord and higher things. So fundamentally, if I want to grow in prayer as a Christian, if I want to be more intimate with God, it's not a matter of mastering technique in prayer. It's a matter of removing what's between me and God, growing in virtue. There's a fundamental link in growing in virtue. So in making progress in the spiritual life, it's important that God is the primary actor, right? God is the one working in me to remove those sins, to do that work. But there's also something I need to do for God. And traditionally, this is what we call asceticism. What are we going to do to dispose our will to receive the gift that God's offering us? And when people hear that term asceticism, they often might be filled with ideas of self-flagellation or extreme fasts or what have you. But much of, I think, everyday life can actually be framed as asceticism, and people don't think of it that way. Like, I think one of the most ascetical acts we can do is to put ourselves to bed on time and to wake up when we set our mind to it, when we set our heart to it. And then when we wake up, to simply pray. Right? Each one of those actions, each one of those discrete choices of going to bed, waking up, and praying, that is a form of asceticism, of disciplining the will. And then beyond that, our vocation, our state in life offers us certain forms of asceticism. For some people, maybe you're a widow or widower, maybe you're single. There could be an asceticism in the solitude, right? Choosing to enter into that silence and find the Lord in that space of solitude. There's also an asceticism for, people that have small children. You don't get to do what you want to do. There's another diaper. There's a dishes in the sink to do. There's what have you. Whatever the Lord has given you offers you a certain level of discipline. And then there's also a level of asceticism of taking care of ourselves as humans, having to make those choices to eat well, to sleep right, to exercise. You don't need to flatulate yourself to cause pain in your body, right? Go do some bench press or some push-ups or some squats, right? We can actually cause that discomfort and mortify our flesh in a way that actually makes us healthier in the long run. Now, of course, the caveat with all that is the heart of asceticism is in intention, right? So mixing health and asceticism is an act that we need to make sure our heart is set on the right thing. We're not trying to get ready for our summer clothes, we're trying to make an act of sacrifice for the Lord. So all in all, I guess the point I want to get across is as we grow closer to God, it's not just a matter of learning technique and applying effort in our prayer itself, but we're bringing our whole life to the Lord. And intimacy with the Lord is a matter of becoming like Him, meaning loving like Him, hoping like Him. It's not a matter of removing our consciousness, but God can use our consciousness. God speaks to us through our feelings. He speaks to us through our thoughts. So if you are distracted in prayer, it is good to just try to set it aside, just try to move on without making too big of a deal of it. But if that thought and distraction persists, it's possible that maybe that's what you ought to be praying about.
Yeah, right.
Maybe you ought to talk to the Lord about why it's on your mind. Maybe we need to ask the Lord for strength in that space, be vulnerable with Him about our deeper motivations. Right? Oftentimes what we want to do is we want to set aside our humanity, set aside our feelings, our weaknesses, our faults, our failures, and act like the person we think we should be before the Lord. But if the heart of prayer is intimacy, then the deepest prayer is the authentic prayer of being who we are with the Lord. And in that space of authenticity, God can take us from where we are to where we need to be. But basically, that's a lot of humility. It's a lot of vulnerability, and it's difficult to stay in that space of entering intimacy with the Lord.
So, Andrew, can you give me some insights into how do we, because we always look to saints, right? And saints have a very kind of strict ascetic kind of life. Do we see saints that are more kind of what you're talking about, or am I reading all the saints wrong?
We have two great examples in recently canonized saints, Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio Fossati. I think of Carlo Acutis. He loved video games. He loved technology. And one of his prayers was, "Oh Lord, help me to play video games the right amount."
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And ultimately, in his asceticism towards his video games, where he got to was 1 hour a week was the right amount for him. Right. So he didn't stop playing games. He chose to play a certain amount based on his prayer and discernment and the life that he felt called to live. And so a lot of that time he used with technology was then devoted toward evangelization, making his website about Eucharistic miracles. So I think that's a great example for us. Is what's the right amount of these things? What's the right amount of TV? What's the right amount of video games? What's the right amount of podcasts that I should be listening to? And by praying and discerning that, the traditional concept is creating a rule of life. And the idea is the times of your life when you're in consolation, and we'll talk about actually discernment of spirits here in a couple weeks.
Oh, good.
In the segment. But we take some time to pray and discern and talk to, hopefully, a spiritual director or some other wise spiritual guide, our pastor, maybe a small group we're in, and you set a rule of life that defines your prayer and spirituality, right? What is that hour of rising going to be? What is your daily prayer life going to look like? What are those key areas where you need to set limits on yourself?
I love this simple explanation of you have to remove everything that's between you and God. That's it.
Yeah.
If there's something taking up that space between you and God, it has to be removed. And God is faithful to let you know what that is if you ask Him. I know for me recently, I've just acknowledged there's a hole in my bucket, somewhere. And I'm just asking the Lord, why is there a hole? How are we going to fill that thing?
Yeah, and at heart, that's the Christian idea of examine. Oh Lord, tell me my own story. Tell me about myself. What's the part in me that I need to sacrifice for you?
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, but go ahead, Pat.
And I like the idea of like creating your own rule. I love that idea. That it kind of when you look at the monastic life, the rule they have. So how do we create a rule for our everyday life? And obviously there are going to be exceptions here and there, but if you make it broad enough, it'll work, right?
Andrew Reinhardt, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Andrew.